It would be a stretch to claim that the Wii has turned out to be the best console this generation, but for all its shortcomings, it's certainly due some credit for its library of games. Though not without its inevitable letdowns, it's had some fantastic titles in its years. So while we edge closer to the end of its lifespan, I'm going to be looking back and recommending to you a handful of titles that I feel have been quite overlooked. Just remember, this is mainly based off personal experience and opinion. If you have a game you also deem overlooked and want to recommend, just drop us a line in the comments. First on our list is Muramasa the Demon Blade. In the States, Muramasa performed reasonably well sales-wise, especially considering the discreetness of its advertising campaign. Meanwhile in the UK, it never even entered the top 40. To this day, I've never met a single person who even played it, so it simply had to make this list because it's great. The game sort of reminds me of Metroid Prime in that everyone classifies it differently. Some call it an action RPG, I've even known one person call it a JRPG, but I personally think it's more accurate to just call it a hack and slash, as the RPG elements kind of take a backseat here. Muramasa is divided into two different plots. One follows a fugitive named Kasuke, and the other a princess called Momohime. You travel across scenes of ancient Japan, fighting all sorts of weird and wonderful enemies on your journeys. One of the big draws here is sword collecting. The combat itself is somewhat basic, but each of the 107 obtainable blades come with different stats and a unique ability to be used in battle. A nice hook that helps keep things fresh. The game has that brilliant sort of distinctly Metroid-esque map design attached to it, by which I mean that you gain weapons that allow you to enter previously inaccessible areas as you progress, and it all flows together nicely. You travel from point A to point B through all sorts of diverse landscapes on your way, taking on some of the most insanely creative and over-the-top bosses you'll ever see. The scope is huge. Check this one out, I'm actually fighting a god's foot. Amazing. And yeah, in case you haven't picked up on this yet, the game is a visual treat. A lot of people will tell you Mario Galaxy is the best looking title the Wii has to offer, but for me it's Muramasa every time. The art design is mind blowing. There isn't a rough edge to be found. Every inch of it is beautifully drawn and bursting with subtle animation. If I had to say one bad thing about the Demon Blade, it's that the overworld design has room for improvement. Occasionally you might want to run back to a village to stock up on supplies, and it can take stupid amounts of time to get there. This is indeed a conscious design choice, but in my opinion they shouldn't have capitalised on backtracking. It's not one of the game's strengths. Still, that's a pretty small issue. If you haven't picked up on this yet, you should definitely do so. Next up is one of developer Hudson's final games, A Shadow's Tale, or as it's otherwise known, Lost in Shadow. This game is a puzzle platformer where you assume the role of a boy whose shadow has been ripped from his body, and you have to find your way back to it. Now this certainly isn't for everyone, but I personally enjoyed it. At its heart it's simple, but the dev succeeds in deriving enough inventive new twists from the visual gimmick to keep things interesting. As much as I do like it, again, it's definitely not for everyone. If you're someone who can't appreciate anything other than huge action set pieces, then I wouldn't bother. It's a very calm experience that unfolds at an extremely relaxed pace. Because of this, not everyone who plays it will be as complimentary as I am of it. But if you're looking for a platformer that's solidly, lovingly crafted with tons of creativity, then this could be the way to go. Outside of its first party lineup, there really aren't many like this on the console. Speaking of which, how could I make a video about overlooked Wii games without giving this a nod? It's Wario Land: The Shake Dimension. To me, it's a complete mystery how this game flopped. I personally love it. Okay, so aside from motion control, Shake Dimension doesn't really do anything that new, though in my view when a game is this fun, it doesn't need it. If you've never played it, and let's face it, not many people did, it's a very traditional 2D platformer in the vein of the Wario games of old. There aren't any silly gimmicks, it's just a refreshingly down-to-earth, tightly designed, classic-style platform. It doesn't strive to be revolutionary, it's just good old-fashioned fun, and for that reason it wins your heart straight away. It really does go without saying that it looks gorgeous as well. In an era of HD graphics, Shake it launched with this clean, simple, hand-drawn look, and could still compete thanks to its amazing levels of detail and fluent animation. There are one or two drawbacks, namely its strange, faked widescreen issue, although these are massively outshone by the positives. It's definitely worth looking into. The final game on our list is another Nintendo title that didn't do very well. After the original Sin and Punishment gained a new audience from the Virtual Console, the Big N thought it would be a good idea to have a sequel made. And it was, except for some reason nobody actually went out and bought it. This, I think, was a criminal injustice. It is brilliant. In all honesty, this is by far and away the best on-rails anything I've ever played. It's wonderful, and seriously one of the best games on the system. It is this thrilling rollercoaster ride of unbridled imagination and fun. It has some of the most bizarre, inspired enemies you'll ever see in a game. Treasure really did outdo themselves here. Out of all the games I've mentioned here, this has to be marginally the greatest. It really doesn't matter if you missed out on the first one, or even if you don't particularly like on-rail shooters, you should still pick it up. It's just a blast to play. I can't recommend it enough. So that's all I have for you today, but I'm sure there are other games that I've missed. Again, if you have a Wii game that you feel has been overlooked or just want to drop me a recommendation, be sure to leave it in the comments.